in the fields of neuroscience, psychology, conditioning, trauma, how this ancient system can actually offer profound insights and very practical insights and help us in our daily life. So, first of all, not sure this is actually working.
I don't think it's on now.
It's just here for visual effects. So first of all, yoga. What does the word yoga mean? Does anyone know? Unite. Oh, very good. Unite with what? Breath and body. Mind and body through the breath. Would anyone like to add anything to that?
And the soul.
And the soul. Very nice. So this term yoga, the closest English translation is to yoke. Not the yellow part of the egg, but like an oxen to a cart. How you connect a horse or an ox to the cart, that is called a yoke. So it means connection, union. This is yoga. And so we can have many kinds of union. There's goat yoga, there's bear yoga, all kinds of yoga, all kinds of union. But the actual context of the word yoga is something much more rich, something much more profound, and something much more deep. So we'll explore that a little bit later. I want to begin tonight with, just to give some context. We won't go too far into this topic because I don't want to overburden you with too much technical information or Sanskrit terminology. Some words we'll be using tonight are in the Sanskrit language. And many believe, including many scholars, academics, that Sanskrit is the oldest language in the world. In fact, it's the mother language of all languages. So most languages, they can find their root eventually back into Sanskrit language. So I'm going to introduce just four Sanskrit terms to begin. One is called chitta. So these four Sanskrit terms, they comprise of your psychological body, or what's known as the Sukshma Sharira or the Linga Sharira. So over your soul, just like your physical body, here it's a summer day, so we're wearing very light clothing. But if it's very cold, over our light clothing, over our t-shirt, we wear a jacket. So the first covering of the soul is the psychological body. And it is comprised of four elements. So we'll look at the anatomy of the psychological body tonight. And over this psychological body is your gross physical body, comprised of 5 gross elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And in the Vedic metaphysics, Sankhya philosophy, these 5 elements make up all form in the material world. And this metaphysical analysis also forms the basis of Ayurveda. So when you gain some understanding of this, you are gaining a profound insight into both systems. So the first element of the psychological body is called chitta. And then the next one is called ahankara, which can be translated as ego. And then buddhi, intelligence. And manas, the mind.
If anyone's feeling a bit uncomfortable, feel free to stretch out your legs a bit or stand up. Yeah. And if you need a blanket, come give you a blanket. You'd like a blanket?
So this element of chitta, maybe for you, some of you who have some insight into various meditation techniques, already have some insight into yoga philosophy. Often in Yoga Nidra, it is described, gaze into the chittakash, the mind space. So if you close your eyes, and then behind the closed eyes, there's like a black, endless movie screen. And behind the closed eyes, all of your thoughts, all of your perceptions, all of your judgments, they're always reflected on the screen of the mind. It's the chit akash, the space of the mind. And there's just an endless array of thoughts. For most people, it never stops, actually. So, does anyone know what the definition of yoga is in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? Anyone studied Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? So the definition of yoga, according to Patanjali, is yogas chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga means a complete cessation, stopping of the constant fluctuation of the mind space. This is not something cheap, actually. It's something very profound, and it takes practice, it takes a lot of effort. So this chitta, it's very, very the most subtle material element. And this chitta is very, very fine, like pure water, very lucid, very clear like a mirror. And so we can use an analogy. Let's take hydrogen. Hydrogen is everywhere in the atmosphere right now. And then that hydrogen undergoes phase transitions. It condenses into cloud. From the cloud comes water. From water comes ice, rivers. So it's becoming from a very subtle element undergoing phase transitions and becoming more and more gross. See if everyone following me so far? So the same element of chitta, it undergoes phase transitions. And so from chitta, then it goes to ahankar, your ego. And from ego, buddhi, intelligence. And then we're going down, getting more grosser. And then from buddhi, intelligence, manas, your mind. So to give some more practical demonstration of this, I want to introduce another term, but then that'll be it for a while, okay? Has anyone here done Vipassana meditation? Some people? So you'll be familiar with this term. Samskara. Would anyone like to offer an explanation of this term, samskara? Don't all speak at once. Allow me to explain. So, in every moment, even as you're sitting here right now, our consciousness is filled with so many millions, billions of impressions. The shape of this building, the view behind me, the view to the side, your thought, what you're having for dinner, so many things. Millions and millions and millions of impressions. But these impressions, so this word samskara, this is the Sanskrit word for impression. And these impressions can be divided into 3 categories. One impression, one category, is like a line on the water. Very quickly dissipates, eradicated, lost from your consciousness. The second samskara, the second category, is like a line in the sand, and it stays around for some time. But with the washing of the time, that is also dissolved. Can anyone remember what they had for lunch last Tuesday? So it will stay for maybe 1 or 2 days, and then it erodes from the kal, from the time. And then the third category of samskara, this is like a line etched in rock, and it stays deeply embedded in your chitta, in your subtle body, for a very long, long time. And for those of you who have studied some psychology, many psychologists, they agree that the impressions that you collect up until the age of 7 years old, they form the actual structure of your personality for your whole life. So most of us, we're living a life and a persona through the samskaras that we collected up until the age of 7. And of course, other ones happen after that. They may be very traumatic, or they may be very enlivening. A very beautiful experience you had can also form part of your personality. So these deeply embedded impressions in our consciousness, they form the very persona that we have. Now, your persona or your ego is simply a collection of all the aggregate of the samskaras, of the impressions that you have in your subconscious mind. And this collection of impressions that have come from experience, they give rise to a particular persona, a particular personality. And you think, this is me. I am so-and-so because I had this experience, I went on a holiday. One impression is, your name is this, you've been told it from childhood, so this is who I am. And so we derive our persona. Perhaps you know the Greek meaning of the word persona is mask. That's what you hide behind. So this is not who we actually are. This is simply the mask that we are wearing and engaging with the world through. It's just a persona. It's just a collection of impressions. It has absolutely no relationship with who you actually are. This is really profound. And so in our conditioned daily life, our persona is interacting with another persona. And if we have some similar impressions, we think, oh, we can be friends, we can be lovers, we can be husband and wife. If our impressions don't align, we can be enemies. So it's just impressions meeting impressions. You understand? Anyone clear or have a counter argument? I welcome them. So we have this collection of impressions. It gives rise to a sense of identity. And then from the sense of identity, we have certain likes and dislikes. And then so we use our intelligence to try to fulfill our likes in accordance with our persona. So there's another Sanskrit term, but raga and dvesha. So if you just look at your life as you wake up from the morning, this raga dvesha means like and dislike. And this is the basic function of mind. It's a sorting tool. We're always trying to accept something and reject something else. So when you wake up in the morning, oh, I don't want to get up, and then the alarm clock's going off, and then the body's telling, oh, I need to go to the toilet, I need to go to work, or if I have the weekend off, oh, I want new shoes, I don't want these shoes, I want a new car, I don't want that car, I want a new house, and so just this, all day long, we're just going like this. Like, dislike, based on our personality. And whatever impression is coming into the active part of the consciousness, this is called tanu, the active part of whatever impression is present, we just follow that. Like a donkey follows a carrot. And we think, oh, with my free will, I am choosing this. And so the impressions, they just rotate in and out of they don't go away, they just rotate from the active part into the subconscious mind, and then another one comes, and so this kind of hamster wheel is just happening with impressions, and we are just following like a donkey here and there. But spiritual life means to take control of your destiny, to no longer be a donkey and actually exercise your free will. So this is a little bit the topic that we're just introducing this evening. And to give some analogy, so I'm not just filling up with words and concepts, I think everyone hopefully can appreciate this analogy. That is, if there is a fish swimming in the ocean, swimming in the Whangarei harbour, just out to sea, and a storm is coming, and so the harbour is not so deep, so that fish thinks, oh, I'll go back out into the depths of the ocean. And so that fish is going out into the ocean, and it's going down into the deep water. Because on the surface, oh, hurricane, storm is coming, the surface is very tumultuous. But because the ocean's so deep, that fish is going down and it's in the calm waters of the depths. And there's no storm happening whatsoever. Very calm, very peaceful. But then you take that same fish and you put him in this singing bowl. And then there's a disturbance on the surface of the water in this singing bowl. That fish is going to feel everything, right? Because there's a very, very small contextual horizon in which that fish is navigating. So this element of chitta, our psychological body, it expands and it contracts. It expands and it contracts. Sometimes you might wake up on a nice summer's day in New Zealand, the sun is out, the water looks lovely, and you just feel happy. For no reason, you feel light. It's a good day. For no particular reason, it's not your birthday or anything, it's not even the weekend, but you feel good. Has anyone had that experience? You just feel good for no particular reason. So this is Chit Akash, this is Sukh. In Sanskrit, the word for happiness means Sukha. See, the beautiful thing about Sanskrit words is it also metaphysically describes what's happening. So Sukha means happy sky, light sky, expanded sky. The Chittakash, your mind space, is expanded, so you feel light, you feel happy. And in this happy, sunshine, bright day, it's Saturday, you got the whole weekend, even better. And you stub your toe. Not the best, but it's okay. It's the weekend and the sun's out. Because you feel light, you feel happy. So if something happens, it's not so bad. It's not the end of the world. But it's Monday morning, and here you are in the fishbowl. And you get out of bed and you stub your toe. It's terrible. And then your partner says, I don't like your new haircut. And when our chitta is contracted, everything is just so painful, so heavy, so laborious in this contracted state of consciousness here. Has everyone experienced that? Has anyone not experienced that? Any enlightened people in the room? You're probably too humble to say, I know. So I think most of us on some level can relate to that analogy in some way. The expansion and the contraction. This when the psychological body is breathing in and out, like the tides coming in and out. This is the pulse of nature. Summer, autumn, winter, spring. This pulse permeates the entire creation. Expansion and contraction. Just sit here and take a few deep breaths in and out. Feel it in your body. So this is the natural pulse of nature, of the natural world, and also of our own being. As is the breath, so is the mind, it says in the Hatha Yoga Pratipika. So when you're in a very contracted state, very angry, very depressed, just notice your breathing. And when you're in that very calm, peaceful state, notice your breath. So one way you can change that sky is by consciously changing your breath. This is some of the beauty of pranayama and yoga asana. It's giving very helpful tools for it. But we should also know that the yoga system, yoga asana, the physical postures, is just actually one tiny, tiny piece. In the Yoga Sutras, there's about 195 sutras, and only 2 address asana. So here in the Western world, we think the entire yoga system is asana. But actually, this is just one step in the 8 steps of yoga. So the question may come, oh, what are those other steps? And it's actually step number 3. So I've already hopped over a couple. And no problem, we can practice anyone at any stage and it's all beneficial. But to get the overall benefit from the overall project of yoga, it can be very helpful to understand the whole system. So we're going to break this up with just a short little 5-minute kirtan, so you're not overburdened with listening to me babble on too much or too much concepts. So Vasanti, she's going to lead a little 5-minute kirtan. And this chanting of mantra, it actually helps you digest all of this information. And it actually dissolves your subtle body, it dissolves your ego. It dissolves the constricted state of consciousness because it's mantra. It's delivering you from this constricted state. when we're trapped in our mind, we never see and experience the world, reality, or even another person, how they actually are. We only see them through our own filter of samskaras, our filter of impressions. And we're making judgments, criticisms, pigeonholing someone, all through our collected impressions in our consciousness. And you may think, oh, I don't do that with my friend or this person I've known a long time. But actually, ironically, quite often, the longer we know someone, the more we put them in a mental prison. Someone's walking down the street, complete stranger, and they say, oh, I don't really like that top you're wearing. You may think, oh, that's a little bit mean, but you don't know them, so you just brush it off. If you're having an expanded consciousness day, you're not worried at all. If the sky's contracted, it might be a bit more painful. But if it's your lover, if it's your family member, and they say, oh, that top looks horrible, then it's like an arrow to the heart, and it really, it's painful. Why is that? It's because I know this person. I know their favourite food. I know their favourite colour. I know everything about them. I have this picture of who they are and how they should treat me, and that's the little prison I've made for them in my mind. And the longer I've known them, the smaller this prison gets. And if they do something that's not within the confines of it's not conducive for my mental narrative, it's very painful. So the longer we know someone, the more we imprison them quite often. And that's why in many relationships, in the beginning, you give people lots of freedom, and you're trying to get to know this person. It's very nice. Of course, there's hormones. It's lovely. And then after statistically 13 months, they don't pick up their socks, and that becomes the biggest problem in the relationship. Because you've collected some samskaras now, and so the degree to which you are identified with your own persona, to that degree you will see people as their persona. That's why we say namaste. What does namaste mean? It means the divine presence in me is honouring the divine presence in you. Today you might be a prick, but still I know namaste is not who you actually are. You're just having a contracted space day. So we say namaste, because I know in there somewhere under those layers there's something good in there. Same thing with me. So that's why we say namaste. We don't say hello, in Vedic culture. It's a very trivial kind of greeting, actually. Just like in Māori culture, you have the hongi, the breath of life. We both share that same prana. So some acknowledgement of something deeper is there. So just take a moment and imagine, what would it be like to see reality as it is? No filter, no samskara. What is reality? What is the world? What is your husband, your brother, your lover, your sister, your mother, without the filters? Our parents, we collect a lot of filters around our parents, right? Who are they? What's reality?
It's a matter of your perception, isn't it?
But our perception's always coming from this. So I'm posing the question: what would it look like to perceive reality without our conditioned perception? It's completely foreign to us, for most of us, actually. We can't even imagine it, really. We've got even our idea of it is coming from conditioning. This is how ingrained it is in our psychological body. So that's why we're chanting this mantra, is to get us free from this. Because the mind is always translating experience. Right now, as I'm speaking, your mind is giving a commentary in your head like, this guy's really boring. When are we going to have dinner? Oh, I shouldn't have come. I should have just gone for a walk on the beach. The mind's just endless. Is it not so? So the mind's always translating experience. Like in the old times, in the radio, the people, the commentators are giving a commentary of what's happening in the sports game. The commentator, your mind is always this person, this, blah, 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 always translating reality. And depending on the collection of our samskaras, it's going to go in a particular direction. And not two people have the same samskaras. This is really important to remember, particularly in relationships, because we really want those people who are close to us. Oh, you should just see the world. Why don't you understand me? Oh, just understand me. You can't understand another person, not 100% fully, because they have different samskaras. Their worldview is always shaped by the experiences and the impressions that they have. Of course, we can be empathetic and cultivate all these kinds of things, but everyone is coming from different experiences. And it's not just from this life. It's from many, many, many lifetimes, actually. Why are people coming when they're younger and they have a fear of water? Or they have a fear of a dog? There's a really friendly dog. It's a beautiful puppy. And then someone says, oh. Why is that? It's because in their previous life they were attacked by a dog. So they have this latent fear. And then when that samskara comes out in the active part of the consciousness, oh, very afraid. So does everyone get some kind of feel, some kind of insight to this word samskara, impression? It's a very profound topic, but it's not hard to understand actually. Is it not clear for anyone? You can raise your hand, or no problem. Since it's clear as mud, we'll move on to another subject. It's related.
Can I ask, sorry?
Yes.
Just so I've understood. So chanting will help free you from your perceptions or impressions or samskara. How does that work? How does chanting do that?
Oh, good question. Because this chitta, this umbrella that the components of your psychological body are existing within, this is actually all material. Your mind is actually material. Your intelligence is material. Your ahankara, your ego, they're all very subtle material elements. So something material cannot deliver you from something that is material. So when we're trying to do things under our own effort, it can only take you so far. So, like, if you're drowning in the ocean and you stick your hand up and you're yelling and this and that, and you can't save yourself. You need someone on a boat to come and pull you out. So something from inside the system cannot take you out of that system. So when we're trying to do things, spiritual practice, which is ultimately instigated from the own egoic platform, it actually can't situate you in your soul. From sakshitva, the vantage point of being the witness to your mind and your intelligence, we need something non-material. So this mantra is non-material. So it's just like, to give a more simple analogy, if there's a glass of water and full of water and I put a couple of drops of ink into it. Now that whole glass is contaminated. How can I purify this glass of water without knocking it over? I get the fresh water and I keep pouring it in till it overflows, and then gradually all that contaminated water is coming out. So this mantra meditation, it is pouring the fresh water of transcendence into us. And all these unwanted things in the heart, all this conditioning, all these impressions, all this mental commentary is getting washed away, slowly purified. And then, Yogas Chittas Vitri Nirodha, first verse of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, actually second verse. And then, Tada Drastahu Swupre Vastanam. When you're not lost in your mind, you are situated in your own true nature. And then Patanjali says, if you're not in your true nature, you're lost in your mind. There's no in between. There's no, yeah, sometimes I've kind of got the truth. Yeah, I think you're either in illusion or you're in truth, you're in self, you're in the soul. It's quite profound. So this is actually the project of yoga, to situate yourself in your own true nature. Because every 3 to 7 years, all the cells in our body are renewing, even the brain cell. Everything's changing. Most of you here look just over 21, so you've at least had 3 bodies in this life. So which body are you? The 7-year-old, the 14-year-old, the 21-year-old? Which body? But there's something consistent throughout our life experience. That was me. I remember being young. I remember my first boyfriend. Oh, he broke my heart. Well, now I'm married to him, whatever. All these. I remember when I was driving my first trip overseas. That was me. But who's me? The 7-year-old? Everything's changed. All these samskaras, they're just impressions. They're not who you are. So who are you? Atato Brahma Jigyasu, now is the time to inquire about the truth. So we want to understand who we are. This is the ABCs of spiritual life. Does that give some insight? So we're touching upon 3 terms here. And actually, these 3 terms, they have entered into the Oxford Dictionary due to the popularity and the profundity of yoga knowledge for at least maybe 20, 30 years. Is anyone familiar with these 3 terms? Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Would anyone like to give some insight what they mean? Allow me to tell you. Okay, glad you asked. So, we'll start from the bottom up. Tamas, so these are 3 energies of material nature that are always present, always pervading. And they're like 3 strands of a rope, always mixed together. And they also form a basis in Ayurveda. So yoga and Ayurveda are very closely related actually, especially metaphysically. So this first energy of tamas is very dull, inertia, very dense energy. It's that really real contracted state of consciousness. And
do you want me to write down some of these key definitions of the different...
sure.
Yeah, I'll come over.
And the next one, Rajas, this is the fire energy, the pop star, the movie star. It's fire energy, really creation, like creative, very much dynamism, really dynamic energy. And then the next one is Sattvagun, very peaceful, very calm. So these 3 energies are not just there in the mind state, they pervade the entire material nature. So they are there prominently even in different times of the day. For example, in the night time there's a lot of tamagun and you want to go to sleep. And this is very nice to take rest, because if you don't take rest, you go crazy, actually. And your body rejuvenates in this rest period. And this is actually really profound. We won't go too much into it today, but why it rejuvenates is because it actually disconnects from your gross and physical body. Your soul disconnects. And because it disconnects, it has a rejuvenating effect on the mind and the body. So it's actually, even when you come out of a yoga class, you feel good, right? You feel rejuvenated. You feel, this is nice. It's because you've touched on a deeper aspect of yourself. And when you don't have that deeper connection with yourself, it's very detrimental to your physical body, to your mental health, and you find you reach out for more and more artificial means of trying to disconnect from, like drinking alcohol, and you just keep drinking until you pass out. To just have a break because you're stuck in a job 5 days a week you absolutely hate. Friday you have to get so intoxicated and just completely forget about your suffering life, so then you can go back on Monday. Right? This is the common life for many people. So this is Rajagun, and Rajas always descends into Tamagun. And Sattvagun is peaceful, calm. You'll never have a problem, not once in your life, if you are abiding in the mode of Sattvagun. So just be introspective for a moment and see, do you have any problems in your life? One honest person. No problems. Yes.
I was thinking that, is it Sattva?
Mm-hmm.
Could that be sort of thought of how you react to certain things, whether they kind of take over you or whether how you deal with them? Like if you let them wash over you, then that's a good thing.
This is a good thing, generally speaking. Like, there is a time to act also. So now we're going to do a little exercise. This is a nice segue in. These three energies pervade all of our life. Different times of the day, different foods. I don't want to give too many things away, but I'd like you to just note down, just take a guess, where you think these different energies might turn up in different ways. They can be mentally, physically, emotionally, out there in the world, politics, anything.
Maybe you could get in groups and just do a little brainstorm.
And if you need some further clarification about the three energies, you can just raise your hand.
What we eat as well? Like
All the foods are in one of these three categories, and they can also be mixed. You can't get away from these three energies.
So you just want to get into maybe groups of 4, just the people around you, and have a little brainstorm. What's some things that would be in Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun?
Can you just read those to me because I can't see them?
Yeah. So in Sattvagun, this is the energy of clarity. We have peacefulness, clarity, calm. It's the mode of goodness. In Rajas, we have passion, creativity, energy, alertness, impulsiveness. In Tamagun, we have inertia, dullness, ignorance, sleep. So it's going to be more and more contracted, each of these energies. But the Rajas is really fire. So just to give us a little example, there's many rock stars, movie stars, they're really in the mode of Rajas. And people worship them, particularly these days, because there's a prevalence of Rajas in society. And they become, they're the idols, a really Rajasic person. But what happens is they overdose on drugs and they descend in the tamas and they kill themselves. Because it's not stable. Boom, it goes down into tamas. Rajas is not sustainable.
So Rajas is Pitta.
Yes.
And Sattva is Vata.
We can say something like that, yeah. And then tamas is kapha. It's not a 100% correlation, but
Elements of it.
yeah. But we also need all of these in balance. Just like you need your kapha for sleeping and stuff like that.
But if Vata is Sattva and that's ear and movement, then it's not good for the road.
Well, because each one is mixed with the other one.
Okay.
So like Vata people, for example, I often tell my Vata friends, you need to eat some kumra.
Yeah.
You need to take some solid vegetable and ground yourself, because their minds are like a grasshopper going everywhere. It's their natural mental state. But that's often when it's Vata, the air elements, mixed with fire, because the fire inflames the air, right? And so But the more balanced vata, by doing pranayama, then it's vata and sattva. So you can think about what is kapha and tamas, what is kapha, what is vata, and the different gunas. It's a really helpful lens actually. What is a Virgo in tamas, and rajas and sattva? All these. What is your boss when he's in tamas, when he's in rajas? What is your husband? All these things, you know. It's actually really practical. These things are really practical.
Is there an element connected to the three, like earth or fire? Is it fire, air, and what is that?
So we can say roughly that tamas is earth and water. Rajas is fire, and sattva is air and akash, air and space.
Some examples, like with food, you mean like coffee would be raja, and something that, like the meal we're having tonight, be more in sattva.
Yeah. KFC's and tamas, just in case you're wondering. Sorry to burst your bubble. So you can take a couple more minutes. Another pen.
I thought we had one, and then I thought we didn't.
2 more minutes, everyone. 2 more minutes.
If anyone doesn't want like their face on social media or anything like that, just come and see me after the program, and I'll make sure that if not, someone's not comfortable with it, I'm happy with it. Of course. It's later.
Yeah.
So you'll actually be in tree hugging will be in we're on the right track here.
Tree hugging. I don't think I've seen that before. That's great.
Alright, people, slowly coming back, and maybe choose one person from each group to be your spokesperson. Alright, we'll start with this wonderful group.
Okay. Well, since it was mentioned, would tree hugging be sattva?
This is an interesting question. And so the Vedas, they always ask, what's your motivation? And because your motivation is going to be on one of the 3 gunas, unless you're on the transcendental platform and that's beyond the gunas. So, why are you hugging the tree?
Some things don't have an answer.
Are you sure?
Well, I think it feels good. Now you've got me thinking.
What is it?
I'm going to analyse it.
What?
It's just it feels. Yeah, I suppose it is this connection thing. Yeah, what you're talking about, connected with nature.
One, people will chain themselves to a tree, right, for many years to protect the tree from deforestation. This is a really nice cause. But if we really look, what's the motivation? And so these 3 energies, they're like the 3 strands of the rope, they're always mixed. So that can be sattvically rajasic. So it's a nice holistic kind of activity. They're trying to sustain the environment, protect it for future generations. But why are they doing it? It's because their persona wants the environment to survive. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against it in any way. You can all hug trees, no problem. But it's still a self-orientated motivation. So it's egoic. And ego is rajas. So it's sattvically rajasic, but it depends on the motivation. So that's just to give some little insight and get you thinking, what's the motivation behind it? But that's a very good one to start.
Okay.
What else have you got under this?
Well, we've got a lot of things here. Someone else has to.
We had like meditation, drinking herbal tea, eating things like salad and fruit for all for sattva. And yeah, rajas more exercise that's more like cardiovascular and like doing tasks, doing things, getting things done, being productive.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And what else? We had kind of sleep, drinking carvel. Drinking what?
Kava.
Actually, drinking alcohol and these kind of, it's actually rajasic. It gives an influx of rajas and
Kava puts you to sleep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay, it's Thomas then. I was getting rajasic ahead of myself.
And just for food, like things like stew and root vegetables.
Very nice.
That's it.
That's great. Next group.
Would it be fair to say there is no right or wrong answer?
We're not looking at right and wrong answers here. We're just trying to get some feel for these energies. And by sharing different things, getting some insight, seeing how they relate to our life, we'll start to get some feel for it. And then we can start to put it into practice, rather than just some theoretical concept, and just try to get the feel for it. And instead of having to look it up on the internet, is this thing in the motive just you'll just naturally, you'll get the intuition for it, you know? That's what we're trying to cultivate here, not just some intellectual concepts. Next group.
Okay. So for sattva, we also had meditation, yoga, sleep, breath work, walking, quite a long list actually. Connecting with nature, good food and celebration. And for rajas, we had coffee, alcohol, sports, chili, work, exercise, walking, socializing, celebration as well. And for tamas, similar, coffee, alcohol again, carbs, onion, work, watching TV, sleep, social media, walking, socializing. And what was that? Eating for no reason.
Nice. In the back. That was you guys. Okay.
We talked about like each experience kind of encompassing the three. So we kind of started with exercise and went in like, I was like, oh, we could go for a walk, but then it was like what you're saying now, it's like you start off with the urgency that you have to go for a walk, and you go for the walk and you're feeling that clarity and calm. So yeah, we didn't really have like things as such written down, but we kind of spoke about it being personal to each other too, like each one is like personal to each, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Something.
I think a big part of it comes down to like the motivation for the activity.
Yeah.
And it's really tied into which motive is it.
Yeah.
And like I talked about holiday, like when I go on holiday, and we sort of all added in, the tamas is, and also at the top, when you're on holiday and you're relaxed and you're enjoying a new environment and you're away from work and there's no stress, and so you've got all that peacefulness and goodness. And then what did we have?
When you start to think about having to come home, so
Yes.
and then you come home and you've got to go to work.
Yeah, brown.
So, it's all the different feelings and emotions and things that go with each one of those on that journey.
Nice, thank you. And the group in the front.
Well, we did a lot more talking than we did writing. But for sattva, we had connection. And most of these has been said: connection, yoga, healthy food, breath, meditation, sound bath, and singing. And then for the rajas, we had alcohol, coffee, sugar, social media, and colour, like how colour can affect us. And for tamas we have water, junk food, watching TV, social media, all that kind of stuff can bring us into that space.
You have water and tamas.
Yes, we did have water in tamas. We first started it in Satva, but then it got moved to tamas.
Oh.
Because I heard you say tamas was earth and water.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. But tamas, it's not always bad. Like sleep's not bad, is it?
No, sleep is good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank
So
you.
that's us.
Uh-huh. Next group.
So Sattva we have yoga, beach walking, singing, inspiration, love, babies, rainbows, flowers, nature, full moons, meditation, friendship, lovemaking, laughter, and gratefulness. Raja we have anger, heavy metal, boxing, high cardio, conflict, war, sex, art, envy, jealousy, ego. And tamas, we have depression, politics, illness, drugs, alcohol, bad food, boredom, laziness, and gluttony.
Is there another group?
We just talked about this scenario with school-age children, how there's a lot of fire in the house all the time, especially pre-bedtime, and then they finally, just as they fall asleep or sleep beside you, but that lovely sattva, all is well with the world, peace moment, and then you realise you're actually knackered in your tamas and your
Yes.
You can see it in group dynamics too, then, no? There's different ended.
So I think everyone here is starting to get a bit of a handle on these three energies, and there was a nice point brought up at the back that one may be starting an activity in quite a rajasic state, like even walking. Like sometimes if I'm walking next to someone and they're walking quite fast, I just say to them, sorry, my mind's not going that fast, I can't walk as fast as you. Because their mind's really active, so they're like, but then go for a long walk on the beach or out in nature, then the sattva starts to come. And then you can start to appreciate, and you can see the reflection of the sun setting on the water and the birds and the noise, and you start to tune in, you know. It's like, let's just say it's your day off and you're at the beach, but you just had an argument with your friend, and you're completely absorbed in that argument. He said, she said, blah, 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 just the mental commentator's going at full bore, right? And you're completely oblivious to the sound of the waves rolling in, the seagulls flying in the sky, the kids making the sandcastle. Completely oblivious to it, where you are. You're just so in your mind. But then maybe you spend all day there, and slowly that fire starts to dissipate, and then you can come into some sattva. And you know, these energies are quite mixed, so it's not always so helpful to have clear-cut things, because what can be sattvic for one person can be rajasic for another person. It depends on your temperament, it depends on your constitution, so we have to keep all of these things in mind. And often we're attracted to activities that correspond to the guna that's predominant in our consciousness. These gunas are always moving, but quite often we have a predominant nature, and that's intertwined with our Ayurvedic constitution. So the different localities are also in the different gunas. The city, nature, is the place of sattva guna. The city is the place of rajagun. Fire activity, so many things happening all the time. Oh, I'm missing out if I don't go here. Mine's like a grasshopper here. And then the tamagun is the alcohol shop, is the casino. So it just descends down like that. So quite often, you know, when we're really rajasic, we want to live in a place that corresponds to that rajasic temperament. If we have a rajasic nature and we go to yoga, we want to do vinyasa. But actually what we need is a yin yoga. Is to actually slow down, but our mind's so rajasic, we actually won't have a taste for that. I taught yoga asana for 10 years, and sometimes some people from the city would come and I'd see in Yoga Nidra, their fingers would still be tapping, you know, they can't handle that 10 minutes, But over some years, then the sattva slowly comes and they start to get a taste for the more slower practice. But for other people, they need a rocket up their backside and they need to do some vinyasa. So it depends on the different person, you know, and their temperament. So that's why the traditional system is you study under a guru, under a teacher, and he gives you specific instructions for your constitution, for your mental state that's specific for you. And in this way you can elevate most quickly, rather than going towards a practice which corresponds to your prominent guna, which is actually a state of vikriti. So in Ayurveda there's what's called prakriti and vikriti. Prakriti is your natural state, your natural constitution that you're born with. And then you can get into a distorted state. This is called vikriti. Your constitution's actually out of balance. And then when it's out of balance for quite a long time, you think, oh, this actually is my guna, or my constitution. And then so you go on the internet and you do your Ayurvedic checklist and you check, yep, I'm a Pitta constitution. Oh, that's me. But you're actually taking that from a distorted state and you're trying to self-diagnose from a distorted state. So actually, you should follow a sattvic routine for at least 6 months to come back to your natural state. Then you can gauge, unless you already have some insight in these kinds of things, what's actually my nature? Otherwise, you'll then follow a diet, follow a routine that is perpetuating your distorted state of being. You understand? So we need to be sattvic. Try to increase your sattva in all activities. But we need all of these energies in balance. If we didn't have tamas, we don't sleep. If you didn't have rajas, you would have no energy to get out of bed. So we need rajas. And we need sattva gun also. So we need all of them in balance. But we should, generally speaking, try to increase the sattva gun. Because the point was brought up earlier, like if you're in sattva gun, then when things are happening, you won't be so reactive, because that reactivity, that is rajas. And so this rajagun is fire, and so instantly you want to respond, and then afterwards you think, when some sattva comes, oh, what an idiot I was. So this rajagun creates a lot of problems. And in modern society, there is a pandemic of rajagun, from the top to the bottom of society. And so this is creating so much mental disturbance. It's creating such a mental health epidemic. It's creating such a distortion of focus in children. Social media, scrolling on phones. When you cannot concentrate, you cannot understand anything. So that's why in the traditional yoga system, yam, niyam, observances and moral codes, and then asana, and then pranayam, the breath practice, and then pratyahara, your consciousness starts to come inwards, and then dharana, concentration. Every meditation tradition always first teaches some technique of concentration. Learn to concentrate your mind, and only then can you meditate. And then from there, samadhi, unbroken meditation on higher consciousness. So there's a kram, there's a sequence that this project of yoga is orientating us towards. But we can do this yoga very rajasically, or even tamasically. But it still has some potency to slowly purify our consciousness. But the overall project, sincerely speaking, is to get out of these gunas altogether. Because your body is made of the gunas. Your mind is made of the gunas. So there's nothing that you can do with your body or your mind that will get you out of these gunas. We need something spiritual. And everyone here is a spiritual being. Amritasa putraha, O children of nectar. Claim your inheritance. You are all eternal spiritual beings. This is your identity. And you currently have this body, it's changing, it's undergone so many changes. Your mind's always changing. 10 years ago you thought something else. 2 weeks from now you want a divorce and go live somewhere. Mine's always changing, yeah? When Sattva Guna doesn't change, or you can choose, is this actually good for me or not? But Rajas, you're that donkey. And when you're in Tamas, you're just too lazy to even follow the carrot. Can't even get off the couch. So this is a good point. When you're actually in that depressive state, you need Rajas. You need some fire. So when people are actually in quite a depressive, lower state, physical activity is really good for them. Actually, meditation cannot be so helpful because that's kind of can keep you in your mind, depending on the meditative technique. So physical activity, yoga, these kinds of things, this is quite good. And different physical activities are also in different gunas. So it's a very nuanced subject, actually. And we're just touching on it very lightly today, but I think everyone has had some insight. And so our ultimate welfare is to come to this nirguna, this state beyond the gunas. So in deeper states of meditation, one is situated in their soul, in their true actual identity, and you can see the movements of the mind. You can see the changes of the body, but you are from the vantage point, from the witnesshood consciousness of your soul, and you're watching all of it. And this is your true identity, but that's only the start of spiritual life. So once there was one king walking through the forest, and he came across one hermitage, and there was one sage in the hermitage in meditation. And that sage opened his eyes and he greeted the king. And that king said, "Oh, who are you?" "I'm a great king. Who are you?" And then that sage said, "I'm also a king." And then that king, lives out here in a hut in the bush. What kind of king is this? And he said, "Oh, if you're a king, where's your kingdom?" And then that sage said, "My kingdom is my own body." There's this term in India called Maharaj. All great saints, we call them Maharaj. Maharaj also means king. It means great king. But these saints, they don't even have pockets in their dhoti to put one paisa. So how can they be a king? Because they are completely in control of their mind and their body. And from the throne of the soul, they have dominion over their mind and body. And a king who is very affluent and very wealthy and eating very opulent food, they are very rajasic. And in a moment they can have any citizen executed. And they are actually a slave to their mind and senses. And we can see this so much throughout history. And any society where rajas becomes prominent, what happens? They descend into tamas and they become completely destroyed. It's the theme throughout every culture in history. You just study it. Every culture in history. The Romans, what happened to them? They were so hedonist, so rajasic. Gone. So every culture that has a prominence of rajas, and every culture that has deeper connection, spiritual connection, they will endure. So Sattva Guna is clarity, it's calmness, and it's sustenance. It sustains things. And so then this king, he said to the sage, "Oh, where's your treasury?" The king should have so many gold bars and all this. And that sage said, "Oh, my treasury is my calmness, is my peacefulness, is my connection to the divinity. This is a priceless treasure." And then the king thought, "Oh, I don't have that actually." And then the king said, "Oh, where's your army?" King should have a great army. And then that sage said, "I don't have any enemies, so I don't need an army." Then that king thought, "Oh, this guy's got good answers." And then that king thought, "Oh, where are your subjects?" And then that sage answered, "My own body, my own mind are my subjects." and I rule over them very nicely. Then that king realized, oh, he's really Rajasic. And actually he's not a king at all. He's a donkey following a carrot. But his carrot's very nice in a castle. So Maharaj, you can have nothing, but you can have the most wealth if you have divine connection. This is the teleological purpose of our life. This is actually the goal of the human life, is to utilize this higher faculty of consciousness that's available in the human vehicle. In the other species of life, animal, they are burning off karma. They're not making karma, they're burning off karma. But they don't have the highly sophisticated mechanics of the human body to express consciousness. The soul is actually the same in all living beings. The tree, the plant, the fish. The soul is the same. It's transmigrating through species in accordance with your karma and your desire. But just like in different vehicles, one can have AC, one can have nice stereo, one can have leather seats, one can be convertible. Different faculties are available. So in different vehicles, different bodies, consciousness can be expressed in different ways. So in the human vehicle, consciousness can be expressed in a very wonderful way. And we can actually get out of this simply Rajasic, because there's 4 animal propensities: eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. Every living being has to intake some food sustenance for nourishment. Every living entity has some kind of form of procreation for the continuation of the species. Every species needs some kind of rest, rejuvenation period, and they need to defend or try and build some nest, some kind of safe space for the herd, for the individual. And so most humans, we're just actually living like animals and trying to have these 4 propensities most extravagantly, eating such rich Rajasic food which descends us into tamas and we get cancer and die. And having as much sex as possible, millions of partners, which is incredibly Rajasic, and sleeping too much, and defending my illusory conceptions of samskaras, and I'll go to war over my illusory beliefs and everything, because I am my beliefs. So if you dare attack my beliefs, you're attacking my sense of identity. That's why politics and religion really touchy subject at the party, right? Because people's beliefs are intertwined with their sense of identity. So if you question anyone's beliefs, are you vaxxed, are you non-vaxxed? Because that's who I am. Well, either side of the fence you're going to die, I'm afraid to say. This is the reality. So we should take advantage of this human birth and really step into our teleological purpose and really evolve our consciousness, and all of your relationships will be enriched. And actually, this is the cure for all problems on earth. Because we're lost who we are. So many Rajasic and Tamasic outcomes from that. So we want to get beyond the gunas. And in this current age, because the atmosphere is very distorted, the duration of life is actually very short. The process has been given very easy in this season, and that is the collective chanting of the divine names of God. Now, God's a very loaded term. Some other time we can give a class. I gave a class overseas last year. What was it called? God and Religious Aversion and Trauma. Because many people, when they just hear this term God, they file through their samskaras, and then or they see so many nonsense things have gone on, so they have an aversion to the word and religion incident for very good reason. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. What does it actually mean to connect? God, consciousness. There's many terms to really. Union, yoga, means to connect this individual soul with the supreme soul. That is the purpose of the human birth. And all of your relationships will be enriched by that. So we are in a school for that, called Chaitanya Academy. It's the school, international school of the study of consciousness. And actually, I didn't talk about it today, but there's such profound insight of the Vedas can offer into the hard problem of consciousness. This is a term that's been around about 40 years in the field of neuroscience. Different areas of the brain can be identified for different things, colour, shape, sight, etc. Different areas illuminate, but what collates it into one singular unitary experience? It cannot be found. No instrument can understand it. They can't understand how it happens. That's called qualia. What collates it into a singular unitary experience? Let's take an orange. One part of the brain is lighting up for colour, one for shape, etc. But what gives a subjective experience of an orange? They can't find it in the brain because it's consciousness. Everyone has consciousness. You may be losing your consciousness right now because you're starting to sleep, but everyone has it. And so, let's live from a place of consciousness. This is our invitation. So this concludes our seminar for this evening, and just an introduction to this topic. There's many, many other things we can talk about and go much deeper into these things. But does anyone have any questions, clarity, reflections, complaints? It's all welcome.
Can you explain what that's the purpose of the colour on your
Yeah,
noses and
good question. So in India, different people from different traditions, they decorate their face with clay. Some this way, some that way, some like that. Different colours. India is a very colourful place. So depending on the insignia, it also communicates what tradition you're from, and also what is the ultimate trajectory of that tradition. So generally, 3 lines represents those people are aiming for moksha, for liberation. There's some understanding of the suffering of this material consciousness, so they're trying to get out. We don't endorse that as an ultimate goal, because there's a lot more available. So these 2 lines, one represents the divine masculine and one represents the divine feminine, and the place where they meet is the divine forest of Vrindavan, and the clear part in the middle represents no ego. So you can come to that divine plane of consciousness when you don't have ego. So we are in the school of love, because many people have ideas about love, but actually what is it? And it's really hard to understand love when you think you already know what it is. I'll just share one little short story because it's so wonderful. I just love this one. So one of my teachers, when he was first asked to teach, there was a small number of students, about a dozen or so. I think this was in America. And during a break of the teaching, all the students were sitting around talking, and the subject of love came up. So particularly the Westerners, they were really piping up with their kind of egoic ideas of what love are. They read it on Facebook, some scroll or something, And then there was one older Japanese man, and really uncharacteristically he spoke up. And he said, in my culture, we get married when we're really young. And we don't actually assume we know what the word love even means. And when I first was married to my wife, there was many little things which I didn't actually like. And subliminally I tried to change them in her. And then I stopped doing that. And with a gleam in his eye, he said, and it only took me 14 years. And so you may be thinking, oh, that's shocking, 14 years to stop getting on his wife's case. But actually, unfortunately, most of us will go our whole life, our whole married life, and never accept our husband, our partner, children, mother, father. Never. Oh, he does that, she does that, why are you like that? because we have them in that prison, right? And so, to be fully accepted as you are, that's just all what most people want. They're trying to find the one, and when I just find the one who will accept me, oh, my life will be so wonderful. And then some people, oh, okay, I haven't found the one, so then I'll find God. God will accept me, right? This is also a nice motivation. But again, it's coming back to motivation. We just want to have a loving reciprocation with someone. But we can't have it when we have this egoic mentality. I know everything already about this subject. So like this Japanese man, he understood when he was young. We don't actually know what love is, but it's the purpose of our marriage to try to understand what is love. Imagine that as a foundation for your relationship. Together, we're going to try and figure out what is this love thing. Instead of, I've got my long list of what I know love is, and do you meet this list or not? That's Rajas. Conflict comes, Thomas. See you later. Swipe right for another one. So, you know, in the Eastern system, often the marriages were arranged, but statistically, their marriages last longer because there wasn't really the option, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a good thing either, but there wasn't the option for divorce. They had to learn to love one another. So when you enter into a relationship, you know, we really have to try and make this work. It's a very different energetic dynamic than like, I can always swipe right on another one. It's throwaway culture, it's consumerism. And this is destructive. Yeah, anyway, that's no. So coming back to a more positive note, so these two lines, one means the masculine, one means the feminine. It means the lover and the beloved, and we are servants of that lover and beloved. We want them to come together on an individual level. As the lover, the soul, wants to come into union with the beloved. And the supreme reality, there's a Sanskrit word called Krish. Krish means existence. And in all of existence, that most beautiful being who's full of ananda, joy, Krishna. Reality is beautiful, actually. So one Sanskrit name for the divine is Krishna. So that's why we're singing Krishna, because beyond your samskaras is a very attractive reality. And also there is Radha, Radharani, who becomes, she's addressed here as Hare in the vocative case. So the all-attractive goddess with the all-attractive, the lover and the beloved and their divine dance, we are servants of them. We are in that school trying to understand. That's a long-winded answer of what does this mean. Any other questions?
Can you, like, you've got that Rajas, and you said, like, you know, you can get all keyed up and descend into that tamas, but can you go, like, sattva, like peaceful, clarity, calm, like, can that descend into tamas? Like
Absolutely.
Sleep? Oh,
Once there was one yogi in the Himalayas, and he was in a cave about 3 k's from a village, and he was very peaceful, and he was meditating there for some time. All the villagers, they respected him. Oh, Sadhu Baba in the cave, he's Mr. Enlightened, and they would give him offerings and everything. And then every 12 years in India is the Mahakumbha Mela, biggest religious gathering on earth. It's just happened, just a few weeks ago. Millions and millions, 80 million or something came there. And so all the yogis from the Himalayas, they all come down out of their cave and they all gather there. So the time came for Mahakumbha Mela. And so, you know, he was feeling real shanti, real zen, you know. And so he came down, came to Haridwar where they're having it. And at a particular astrological calculation, a particular muhurta, everyone takes bath in the river there to get maximum benefit. So everyone was rushing. Just imagine so many Indians. I don't know if you've been to India, even trying to get on the trains crazy, let alone Kumbh Mela. And so everyone was trying to take bath, at this particular time. And so as he was trying to take bath, this yogi, another sadhu, another saintly person, he stood on his toe. And then that yogi goes, do you know who I am? I'm a very saintly person. And then that other sadhu was like, oh, I'm very sorry, I didn't realize who you were. But just tell me one thing. Why did you get angry when I stood on your toe? Because if you're so enlightened, why would you get angry someone mistakenly standing on your toe? And then that yogi realized, actually, I'm not enlightened. There was just no one around to trigger me. For all these years, I thought I'd made a lot of advancement, but I was just shanty in my cave because, like, being in a relationship, right? It's like a mirror in your face, like, man, that's sadhana, that's bloody hard work at times, you know? So, that cave looks really appealing sometimes. So then that yogi realized, actually, I was in a state of sattva gun, but given the right conditions, rajas just came out in a moment. So we have to get beyond these gunas. Otherwise, at any moment, because it's material nature, it'll change, and it's the nature. These things are always in flux. Whole societies, whole epochs of time also go through these gunas collectively, but they're always in movement. So you can really, from the macro to the micro, really zoom in and out with these lens of perception of the gunas, and it'll give you profound insight into this world. Thank you for the questions. Any other questions?
I was just wondering about the samsaras, is it?
Samsara. Oh, samskaras. Yeah.
Like when you're talking about the like perception of your reality and how it comes from, you know, your childhood, and how can you know, when you like separate the gut feeling and like energy, and like the way that you sort of like, you know what I mean, like that side of things, not necessarily like from an ego perspective or like a visual or like a you know, aesthetic one. That's more like the feel of life and the feel of like how you can move through life. Do you know what I mean? Like this, how can you merge the two and have it? Yeah, that makes sense.
Sometimes it's explained in certain traditions that there can be an awakening at the head, awakening at the heart, and awakening in the gut. And not necessarily in this order. One person can have an awakening in the head, another one in the heart, another one in the gut. The gut's more profound, actually. And so someone who's maybe more awakened in the heart, they're really feeling everything. And quite often they don't know how to turn that feeling off. And it can be really overwhelming with everything that's going on in the world. Like they can really feel the whole energy of the world in one sense, and it can be really overwhelming for people. Other people that are more in the head, so it can be really intellectually conceptual, insight, learnings, this kind of awakening. Often when your awakening's more at the head, the heart begins to dry up and it becomes a bit more cold, and it becomes a bit more, your orientation spiritually is more about moksha, more about liberation. At the heart, often it's more about nature, and it's more about feeling, and we're all one, and like why is the world like this, is more feeling kind of orientated. And at the gut, like there's a saying in Zen, before enlightenment, the trees and mountains are trees and mountains. During enlightenment, during Satori, they cease to be. At the end of enlightenment, the trees and mountains are trees and mountains. So it looks like the first one and the last one are the same, but they're very different actually. So the first one is just the general conditioned person and their empirical daily existence. What I see with my eyes, that's reality. Anything beyond that's woo-woo. This is it. Okay, I'm getting my TV, and that's it. I'm following the single source of truth, and I believe it. So that's just the general empirical investigation into reality. And then the second one, maybe you have some kind of spiritual experience or awakening, and then often a narrative, the world's just illusion, time's illusion, all these, you took some mushrooms and you had some experience, but you maybe don't have an actual context for it or actual guidance, but you did have a genuine, real experience on some plant medicine, and it's like, everything's just, now I've seen everything's illusion, and that's kind of an awakening from the heart in one sense. But an awakening in the gut, it's actually a lot more profound and it's a lot more mature in this model. Because so often we look for truth in the mind. We believe our thoughts. We believe our thoughts. And, if some intelligence awakens, some buddhi awakens, then maybe my thoughts aren't always true. Maybe my narrative about that person's not 100% true. Then we look for truth in our emotions, which can also have its place. I'm not saying each one is bad. Everything has its place, time, place, circumstance. But to look through just your emotions as being your primary source of investigation into reality or source of truth, emotions aren't always... This is a very profound topic actually, but emotions, one, they're not always yours. Like, you're not in control of your emotions, generally speaking. Like, if you are, can you turn them on and off like a light switch? Like, if I say to my partner when she's on her period, just turn it off. Like, that fry pan's coming at my head pretty quick, Like, we're not in control of it. Someone says you're angry, just turn it off. So we're not in control, actually. Of course, we can cultivate more sattva is there, the more we will be in control. So we have to look at where this emotion's coming from. And this can go into more of an esoteric exploration of actually what are emotions, where are they coming from. And in a modern psychological narrative, we want to own and possess everything. But emotions are kind of like cheap Chinese food. They just wash through us. But when we identify with them, then they stay around for a lot longer. But in a profound awakening in the gut, there's a lot more of a context. You've got the heart, you've got the head, and it's a profound awakening in the body. And it's a lot more mature, actually. And you're not thrown around by some mental, intellectual concept or just thrown around by your emotions. It's a real integration. You can see the context of both of them. And you can navigate this world from a lot more grounded, embodied place. So that's today I was trying to get some feel for the gunas, but a feeling, more of a grounded feeling really, than just kind of a more rajasic, whimsical vata feeling, and not just some intellectual concept. So that's what we want to, and as we mature in our spiritual life, then we're navigating more from the gut with the assistance of the heart and the mind, because the heart's essential because the soul's floating there in the prana and the heart chakra. Everything's very deep topic, There's a lot we can say. Any more questions? I'm also mindful of the time. We can have more questions over dinner. We have a nice sattvic meal prepared for everyone. But we'll end with a little digestive kirtan for the talk. And I encourage you, we can stand up for this kirtan. Everyone's been sitting for a long time, and Pranavallabha will lead us through it.
Anyone like an instrument? We've got some rattles and we can do a standing kirtan now.
Yeah.
Stretch the legs a bit. So we'll start this kirtan with Govinda JJ, Gopala JJ. So Go means cow, and so it's a reference to Krishna and some of his pastime, herding cows, and so the divine masculine. So it's on. And the one in the small bottom, just before, right at the bottom, Govinda JJ on the right, Govinda JJ, Gopala JJ.
Go also means your senses, and Jai means victory. Victory over your senses by connection with the divine.
Govinda JJ, Gopala JJ.
Hare
you very much, everyone, for coming along this evening, and thank you, Jodie. I don't know if she's here, for opening up her space and welcoming us.
Thank you.
It's very generous of you. We appreciate it. And if anyone here would like to keep informed of our offerings, we have an email list inside, a contact list. There's a centre in Bank Street in Whangarei. On Thursday, we'll be offering a program there for Shiva Ratri, which will be more of a esoteric kind of program. He's the king of the yogis, so we'll find out who is Shiva. And we also have a study group every Wednesday, which is online, and we have many offerings, so if you want to stay in the loop, you are most welcome to give us your contact details.
Yeah, just when we're serving dinner, just at the end there'll be a sheet there, so you can just, if you want to, put your name down, and yeah, just come see us. We'd love to hear questions and feedback. Yeah, really open. And yeah, we do kirtan every Thursday evening. This Thursday's different, but we do that every week, or we just do an hour and a half. Whoever's there absorb ourselves in mantra. So you want to really just absorb yourself for a long time. It's a great opportunity. Oh yeah, I think before we go out, if we could just get all the pieces of paper, please, and put those. You could give those to Vasante. And we'll help put the bolsters. Help Jodie put his bolsters away.
So now we'll have a vegetarian dinner with dal, rice, salad, some sweets. So please stick around for that. I got a lid for a pen.
Yeah, we have one that's the blue one. We have
Two lids.
that one's blue.